So, hello again, and I thought I would do this a talk on government and money. The title of this video might be the government problem, but perhaps when I explain, I might link up government and money and be able to explain that, and we might get something from it. But if you see me look down here, it's because I have some notes on a screen, so I will probably reference it. Now, so the reason that I thought to myself I might talk about this today is this subject matter is something that I am quite often discussing in a business context. It tends to be more of a consequence of the business or chatting with people in a financial business context. Or it might be because the business butts up against something to do with money and government, which is quite often. But what I'm about to talk about is really the backdrop to an understanding that I've gained over the years, and I suppose this understanding and my work experience has contributed to shaping and modifying my opinions. And so this is, if you like, the backdrop to my opinions when I'm advising or trying to advise in businesses, because what businesses tend to want is a fortune teller. Ideally, what they want to know is what will the future marketplace look like? Is the business good enough? Is our product good enough? Will we have market share? Can we buy raw materials at cost X? Will we be able to maintain sales at cost Y? And then the executives and the shareholders of the company all they want from me is to know the profit margin. That's all they really care about. And they sometimes think that I have a crystal ball and I can predict the future. And I've always found that very interesting. Because in reality, nobody can predict the future. Marketplaces are very complex. There are lots of complicated factors. Anyway, to go back to in a previous video that's titled Big Government, I think, I've probably wrapped a conversation, some text around this subject matter. But in this video, I actually want to focus on inequality and equality, although that might be difficult to extract from a piece about government. But let's just see how I get on. So the title of this video, at this point in time, believe it or not, as I go through the video at the end, I often change the title because I can see my thought process and my attempt to explain sort of changes as I go through the talk. Sometimes I've tried having cue cards, and I tend to go off piste there. So this sort of subject matter, this type of discussion or chat, I'm finding it's better if I let it flow. So in my mind I have an idea of where I'm going, and always at the end I try to make some points that are helpful, that are functional. Anyway, so government. Why do governments seem to fail? Why is politics constantly so dramatic and untrustworthy, and why does government and politics always seem to fail? Now, over the years and the work experience I've had, that has enabled me, to form an understanding, and to varying degrees, it could be wrong, but I don't think it is wrong. But with that understanding, I've also understood the complexities, that the complex nature of government and politics. So in one hand, I've been able to see what's wrong with it. I can also see what's good about it, but what's wrong with it also seems to be more time consuming and create all the work. But I can also see the reasons for that. So you end up being very conflicted, because it enables you to perform a witch hunt or point the finger, but then that requires a solution. Otherwise, because in life, if you constantly point the finger and state what is wrong, it gets very tiresome. And it's just much better if you point the finger and offer a solution, because then it justifies why you're pointing the finger in the first place. So I always tried to do that. Now, and the reason that I want to talk about government, politics and money in this video is because recently the last few videos I've done have sort of been in this sphere, and they are related, they're connected. And so I feel, why don't I go in for the larger issued stuff? I think to myself, why don't I just focus on business viability and taxation strategy, or product design, stuff that's a bit easier to talk about. And here I'm going for the real tricky stuff, but it's interesting as well. And for some people this is going to they won't find this interesting, and some people won't be able to relate to it, or it won't interest them, and that's totally fine. But some people will be familiar with the stuff that I'm saying. Right. So in theory, a government is, so this is a government in Europe and North America. Other places in the world, society and culture is a little bit different, and what I'm saying might mean different things to them, and they may take a different view. So I'm really focused on the West, on Europe, North America, Australia, New Zealand, and Israel. And there's a few other countries that are very similar to our government socio structure, but it's really that I'm making reference to. Right. So the man in the street will probably be able to understand that, in theory, the government has been elected by the people, and it will be considered that the elected people will serve the people's interests to the best of their ability, in the context of the country's economic, socio-economic position. Right, so the man in the street, they've all get together and they appoint another man to represent them, to the best of their ability provide a social structure that's a level playing field, so we can all get on as people and enjoy being human beings and get on and function. So in a nutshell, it is, I suppose that's it. Now, if you discounted money and jobs for a moment, you can see how that would work. Some chap would be saying, or woman would be saying, hey, vote for me. I'm going to make your life so much better, because I'm going to make sure that everyone has lots of interesting activities to do and access to all the resources that you could possibly need, and you can do stuff all day long that you choose to do to your heart's content. And fair enough. the person that offers the biggest promises that you think are deliverable, you'd vote for that person, and that's that's how it would work. But that isn't reality. Reality is that that it seems that to live on planet Earth, when you're young, you assume, and for most people, parents parent you and feed and clothe you and buy you toys, educate you to a degree, send you to a school, and then you become old enough to actually work for yourself and earn money, and that seems to be the deal. As a person, as a human being on planet Earth, that's the deal. So you're born, you exist, and you learn that to buy stuff you have to have a job and do something. You get paid, and with that money you can buy stuff, and that stuff enables you to have a quality of life, to have a life, to food yourself, to clothe yourself, and enjoy life like that. Now, again, very basically, that is how that's how it works. Actually, that is how it works. Now, but we are aware that in this world, people are different shapes, different sizes, different skills, and we look different. So straight away, we are all a bit different. So physically, and our abilities are different. Then we find our personalities are different, and sometimes can relate to our skills. So what that means is that some people will be doctors, some people will work in factories, some people will work in supermarkets, some people will build space rockets, and like Elon Musk. And so that makes life interesting. Right, but a person could take a view, hang on, I want to build a space rocket like Elon Musk, but there's no way I can do that because I don't have the money, I don't look like him, and even if I educate myself at university and I have the desire, the chance of me building a space rocket is probably very slim. Now, in actual fact, that would be a true statement, but what I don't want to do is rule out the possibility of everything. And I'm sure that Elon Musk, before he made money, he might have felt like that. So in actual fact, you can be young, you can be at school, and you can have big dreams, and you should have big dreams. But the point I'm making is, for a lot of people, even though they want to do that, they will never do that, because they won't have access to the resources that are required to achieve such business success. And they might not be skilled, they might not be gifted in the skills required to have a career like that. But on the whole, many people, plus that there isn't space in the world for 100 Elon Musks, because building space rockets is very expensive, resource intensive. We probably don't need 100 Elon Musks, but we definitely need 1 or 2 or 3. I don't know if this is a good example. Okay, but the point I'm making is, for many people, reality is that life's pretty tough, and they are working hard, they are employed full time. In fact, they have a second job, some people have a third job, and with those second and third jobs, they are still only covering rent, food, and a little bit of money left over to clothe themselves. If they have a family, they are literally surviving. And so the problem with that is they have a second job, which means that the first job isn't enough, doesn't provide enough income for them to put a roof over their head and food on the table for their family. So straight away, we have a massive problem there, because what I've just said is reality for a lot of people, an awful lot of people in society. And so very quickly, should life be this hard? Should it be this tough? Why is it that way? Now, the reason that we arrive at that opinion is that we know for many other people who are very wealthy, life seems very different, and the challenges that poor people face, rich people don't. Now, it's obvious because you have lots of money, so problems associated to lack of money, aren't present for those wealthy people. But the thing is this, we are aware of rich people that are in the media a lot of the time. And so we can understand, why they've made some money, because we're told about it. But actually, when I think of big tech, the wealth that is created is astronomical, and many people might think, hold on, Zuckerberg and Facebook, basically, yeah, Facebook's a good thing. You put your best self on a web page and other people follow you, you follow them, you can message people, you can share your photos, but is that really worth him being a billionaire many times over? And also, if he has billions of dollars, who owned those billions of dollars in the first place? Why has he got all this money? Is this thing on the internet, is this social media platform that today seems to be causing more trouble than it does good, why is it worth so much money? I think it's easier to understand, companies that actually make a product like, Tesla, Elon Musk, SpaceX, all the stuff that he does. He actually makes a thing that you can buy that has value, and it's functional. Facebook, it just seems to make people's lives, actually, yes, there's value in communication, but for a lot of people, I don't think it makes their life better at all. And that's probably a completely different video. Anyway, the point I'm making is that we do seem to be divided in society. And where I'm trying to go to in this video with this chat is I'm trying to explain why it is divided and why we have lots and lots of poor people, and why this is a massive challenge for the government, because some people within government will understand the bigger picture, will understand the hard edges of the world that we live in. Will understand, how tough it is, this world that we live in, and so we end up at a situation where that actually explains why government and politics always seem to be dramatic and fail, and why money seems to be the source of a lot of trouble. Now, so this is where I need to have a little bit of creative license. Well, not creative license, but I need to be able to speak freely to get to my point. And it's always at this point in the video where I feel I haven't done a good enough job to set the framework of references. I haven't really set this up very well, but as I'm talking, here, it's difficult to put the chess pieces on the board and then explain how it works. So I sometimes will get to how it works and then try and explain how it works. So I'm going to try that right now. Okay, Now, at this point, I have to say, this is my opinion based on my work experience, and that has shaped and modified my opinion, and varying degrees I can be wrong and right, and so I have to explain that, because what I'm going to say, the implications are a little bit serious, and I am aware of that. Okay, so first of all, government, politics and money. Now, I'm going to assert that when I say money, I mean, the dollar or the pound or the euro that's in your pocket. Because, believe it or not, that money was made, in a factory, in a place that makes money, and you ended up with it in your pocket. Either it was given to you, or you did a job or work for somebody else, and they gave you money for that labour. Now, straight away, you can ask, where's that money actually come from? I know it's come from a building, but who owns that building? And who really has the authority to actually make that money? And why does money have value? Now, I'm going to assert that what gives money its value is really only two things. Demand for it in lots of people need it to buy bread, but I'm going to add there that you need lots of poor people. And the other thing that you need for a currency, for money to work, is you need the ability to force the use of it. And that is the only two things that you actually need for money to work. You just need lots of people that need it. And it doesn't actually work if everyone's equal and rich. It only works if you have a lot of poor people. And then you need the ability to force the use of it. Now, I might just pause for a moment and let that sink in for a moment. So I'm going to say it again. There's just two things that you need for money to work. Lots of poor people and the ability to force the use of it. That's what makes money work. So I'll just park that there. Now, I was just thinking, how do I explain buying things from other countries via import-export trade? I think I'll come back to that. Okay, so take your country, and you go to work, you do some labour, and you're paid. And if you weren't paid money, you might have been paid credits or something that represented value that you could then take to Sainsbury's, the supermarket, and exchange that for bread. So money is the medium of exchange. It is just a thing that represents value, and value is given to something via basic economics for most of the time. But actually, in the luxury goods space, value is obtained really because someone thinks it's worth that, and it's really interesting how psychology and that market, how the luxury marketplace works, because money takes a very different role actually in the luxury market space. But I'm talking about buying loaves of bread and going to the office and doing a day's work. So we have central banks and we have money because we can't all grow chickens and cows and take them to the car dealership and swap chickens and cows for the new car that you want. So money is a medium of exchange, and it has a value given to it that we sort of accept because that's what it, £1 buys you a loaf of bread. That's just where we've got to when we accept that. And 100,000 of those pounds that represent 100,000 loaves of bread represent a fancy Mercedes car, a very high-end one. And so that's how we view it, and how we proportion value. Right. This is tricky to explain, but okay. Right. Now, so we have children. We have factories that make the bread. We have factories that make the car. Now, those factories that make the bread and the cars need to be built somewhere on land that somebody owns. And so government is there to actually create the mechanisms and the operational procedures that allow people to build the factories, and then to hire people to make the cars. And we have children that need to go to school, so the government provides the mechanism in which schools can be built. And and roads. Roads is a good example. Okay, so so we all have motor cars and bicycles, and we walk. And if no one built roads and pavements, the minute you get away from your property or your flat or where you live, it would just be mud. And so you would need a 4x4 at least, and it would be chaos. You can see, because if you go outside now, roads and pavements are jolly useful because you use them to get everywhere and do everything. And a government is responsible for building those roads, pavements and traffic lights, infrastructure. So you can see that, why a government is there. Right, but why does it seem that government doesn't work very well? Because if you didn't really think about this, and you walked out of your house and you saw the road, the pavement, Sainsbury's and Tesco, the petrol station, the corner shop, the school, the swimming pool, the ice skating rink, and your cinema, you could take the view, well, I don't know who's built any of this stuff, but it's cool, it's there, somebody else built it, but I'm benefiting because I go there and I do my ice skating, I go to the cinema, and then I go home. So you're just aware that stuff is there, but all that stuff is there because the government is there, the government exists. So once again, you can sit back and think to yourself, well, government are people that, in theory, people have appointed to manage the world that we live in and to provide roads, pavements, schools, and the infrastructure that we need. So you could really take the view, great, it does work. But we are constantly reminded or told by the news media that there is nothing but drama and frustration and falling out and inequality within government. And we always seem to have politicians arguing with each other about everything. I don't know if you've watched UK politics, but we have something called Prime Minister's Questions on a Wednesday, and if you've ever watched that, because it is televised, basically the two main parties face each other, and right now we have Boris Johnson representing the Conservatives, and we have Keir Starmer representing Labour, and for 5-10 minutes all they do is slag each other off, literally. Whatever Boris says, Keir Starmer will say the opposite. And then, whatever Keir Starmer says, Boris Johnson will make fun of and say the opposite, and then claim that he's done something wrong. I mean, it should really be categorised as entertainment. Now, when you think to yourself that these guys represent the country and represent the government, you sit back and it's like being hit by the anaesthetic cosh, because you just think, I can't believe this. These people are supposed to be running the country, and all I'm witnessing is a Punch and Judy show. That's it. I'm just seeing a couple of people have a go at each other, and surely they would have something better to do than like run the country, which we know is a very difficult job. But that's what we're presented with. We're presented this Punch and Judy show. Now, there are other people there as well that represent other political groups, and I always found that interesting. Why there's always about the two main parties and then the other parties that just seem to be there to make up the numbers. It's unfortunate, but I suppose in one respect they do make up the numbers when it comes to votes that everyone has to vote. Anyway, so we have society. We have a rich person here. We have a wealthy person over here. But it does seem today, in 2022, that this divide is even more so visible than ever. Although, I do hear arguments, and I myself could probably argue that, on the whole, the standard of living has increased over the decades. I can see that. But many people are going to take the view that this divide today is wider than ever, because it does seem that you are a person that has an income, and that income is giving you a roof over your head, not always a car. If you live in London, most people don't have cars because cars are really, just an expense, and because we have public transport, you less need them. But you have a roof over your head. Now, if you live in central London, you need to be very wealthy because properties really are expensive. To give you an example, if you want to live somewhere like Notting Hill or Kensington or Chelsea, or Westminster, even not just those places, but even all the areas around there, if you're given £1 million, that's not really going to help. It will buy you something, but it won't be what you want, and there'll be a compromise, like you'll be a bedroom missing, or there'll be nowhere to park your car. But the point I'm making here is £1 million is an awful lot of money, but yet buying a property is going to be tight. You will get something for that, but in the places I've said, it's not going to be what you want really. There'll be a compromise. So straight away it makes you think, well, how many people are doing a normal job? When I say normal, I'm also including lawyers, doctors, accountants. I'm including people with university degrees, people that have been to Oxbridge, Cambridge and Oxford, and to get a nice-ish property, you need this £1 million, but yet for most people, unless you're given that money, you're not going to be able to get a mortgage. You are not going to be able to get enough money to buy this property right. So you can't live in central London, is where I'm getting to. Even if you're a lawyer, you can't really live in central London. You can't really buy a house that you want where you want. You have to go somewhere that's cheaper, that's out of central London. So I've just mentioned lawyers, accountants, professional people, business consultants, management consultants, professional, trained, technical staff. You are not going to be living in central London, if you are servicing a mortgage with your income. You are going to have to live somewhere else. So straight away, it seems that we live in a country, a world where to live in just a central location of a city, you need more than a profession. So that indicates something has gone wrong, because we know that only 30 years ago, if you were a lawyer in central London, you could definitely buy a property in Fulham, Chelsea, Westminster, You could do that, but you can't today unless you're given a lot of money. There's no way you're going to be doing that. Right. So we have a poor person, we have a wealthy person, we have an economic environment that really does suggest mean that unless you're wealthy, you can't live somewhere. So why? Why has that happened? This is convoluted, I'm aware, and I knew it was going to be hard to get where I'm trying to get to. So I go back to the point that I was making. For money to work, you need a lot of poor people. And I really believe that the people in government that really are informed, and they have to inform policy. Actually, I've just said something there. Because when I say government, that word means elected politicians. For me, it also means the civil service. And the civil service are people that work for government, within government, but they're not elected. They are just people that have chosen to be a civil servant, to work in the civil service as a career. So these people are not appointed, but they represent everybody else. And what the general public don't really realise is that a lot of actual decision making within government is actually done by the civil service. In actual fact, in the Houses of Parliament, our politicians, they don't actually make that many decisions. And what you see in Parliament, the Punch and Judy show that I've mentioned, and all the drama around it, for me, it's really more of a temperature gauge of opinion and thoughts and issues that are, in the public domain, heavily fueled by the news media. So often they are issues and that are presented by people that have a vested interest in that issue, or want to use that issue as a battering ram for some other reason. Is government what it appears to be? I'm going to say not really. No, it's not. All the decisions are actually formed via a structure, via procedures and processes that the general public won't actually be aware of. They will just see government as a whole thing that seems to be in control. But what I'm saying is that the political environment that we see on television and the politicians that we hear talk, these people actually have much less authority to make decisions than you realise, and they are really not really making the important decisions. These politicians are really the mouthpieces of other bodies, other groups of people. That's okay. That is what I'm saying. And when I say Punch and Judy show to describe the political process that we might see on television on a Wednesday, a Punch and Judy show, I believe, is a more accurate explanation of what you're actually seeing. And I think the Punch and Judy description actually, it accurately describes the outcome of that process. So what I'm saying is that this isn't really forming any decisions. The decisions are being made behind these people, mainly by the civil service. And the civil service is something that the general public don't actually see much of, if anything. But what makes it more interesting is that the general public don't even have awareness of it. I mean, because most people, are too busy getting on with their own life and working and paying mortgage and rent. So, yeah, you can see this is tricky. It's a tricky subject. I'm going to continue, and we'll just see how it goes. Now, because what I'm trying to do is talk about it is when I started this video, I wanted to make some points about the political environment and process, what government is, and the reason for the drama and the failures. And it's actually because of money. Now, it's very cliched, terms like the money is the root of all evil. My grandma used to say that, and unfortunately, it is a very, very true statement. And so what I expect from a government is that they lessen or they create procedures and processes that take the problems away, or they deliver the best of a bad deal, or they create a level playing field, or they produce the best outcome. That's what I expect from a government. But what I'm finding is over the years, I'm arriving at the conclusion that the government doesn't do any of that. The government almost, and sometimes makes it worse, because the government itself has become the patsy or the fall guy for the thing that's gone wrong, or its non-performance is almost expected. But behind that non-performance, something has happened that benefits a small group of people. And I'm going to have to come back to this because I'm hearing myself speak, and I'm not getting to the point quick enough, because I'm trying to explain how the mechanics of money don't lend itself to allowing a government to do a good job. The mechanics of money is the problem to a government doing its job, but what makes the government worse is the government's not actually there to do a good job. The government is there to actually mesmerise the general public. It's there to receive the issues, debate the issues, and then those findings end up with other people, mainly in the civil service, that then make the decisions. If you like, politicians and politics, that's all the school children shouting and screaming, and all the parents and the adults are in the civil service. People that you do not know, you haven't elected, but they have the power and the authority to actually make all the decisions that we are subject to. And okay, I'm actually going to leave it there, because maybe I will either re-video this or come back to where I'm about to leave off. So where I'm getting to is the mechanics of money, its very self, is the main problem that a government can't do what we expect it to do. And I'm actually going to leave it there, because that allows me to come back to this. And this ramble, if I do post it, maybe I will post it, because hopefully within it you will be able to pull some understanding from it, or take a view, or be able to, it'll help you explain what I'm trying to explain better. But okay, so I'm going to conclude there. So once again, the mechanics of money is it very self the problem or the challenge or creates the challenges, making it very hard for a government to do the job that the general public expect it to do. And at that, I can unpack that retrospect to this. So at that, I'm going to, you've seen me struggle today. That was a struggle. Anyway, we're going to come back to this, and I hope everyone's well, and I wish everyone a good day. And bye for now.